Welcome to the Growth Guys Podcast, presented by KinderReeseCoaching.com. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents who are serious about growing their business. Get the strategies and tactics to grow your business fast while building the lifestyle you dream of. Now, sit back, buckle up, and get ready, because we're about to get real. The Growth Guys Podcast starts right now.
Webinar room, and those of you that are joining us on that link, what's up? And Facebook, what's up? Another episode of Ask the Growth Guys with John Kitchens. We got something new today. Man, we got something new. If you see scrolling across the bottom of your screen, you should see a telephone number there. And if anybody's got a question and they just want to shoot a text, or if you want to jump on a call, literally call that telephone number, and we'll just get some live engagement if anybody out there feels like doing something.
You mean in the phones? You mean in the phones this evening?
So what's going on, man? How's your week been?
Been good, man. I'm not digging this cold weather. It makes it tough to run in.
Oh, dude, that's why I ran on the treadmill the other day.
Dude, I hate running on the treadmill, like, with a passion.
I don't blame you, dude. I mean, it's, if you run 2 hours on a treadmill, that's a mental challenge, man.
My goodness.
Mental challenge.
My goodness. I get like 20 minutes on there, and I'm like, get me out of here.
Man, especially when, I haven't run on a treadmill in a while. And so I just did 30 minutes, and I swear it was like, oh my God. I mean, I used to do 2 hours, but 30 minutes, I was at 15 minutes going, did time get longer? It was.
Get me the hell out of here, man. I gotta go. It's crazy though, man. It's like, you've experienced it. You've gone that 5 hour range plus.
Mm-hmm.
And,
6.5. Thanks for rubbing it in.
It's, but the thing is like, that's like, man, you're moving, right? You're covering ground versus standing still. I don't know.
Oh, that's for sure.
No bueno.
Man, I think I'm looking at us on Facebook, and like I said, we're running hot today or something. It looks like we're not exactly HD, but, everybody can see. Who knows? It'll pick up.
We got some of that good North Dallas internet going on.
Got some of that good North Dallas internet. That's right. Speaking of running, though, man, I did, as you know, I ran that hot chocolate 15K this weekend.
Congrats.
That was fun. 9.4 miles or whatever.
The coolest finisher medal ever. I know where you got that bad boy. That bad boy, you better. Where's that? Where's he at?
Look, it ain't that far away.
Dude, that's the coolest finisher medal ever.
It looks like a chocolate bar, right? Isn't that cool? Man. So that is, I was looking at him the other day saying, I wonder, what's my favorite? To be honest, I got this Trinity River one. It's probably my favorite. It's because it looks like an Olympic medal. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that's way cool.
That was for that Trinity River half marathon. But, man, this is why I do it, dude. I paid $100 for that. Right?
That's it, right? It's the same thing like with Ironman. Ironman's $800. It's like, paid $800 for this torture all day and this medal.
Yeah, literally to torture yourself.
At least Texas has a cool medal. Florida has a terrible medal. Their medal was terrible. I was disappointed when I saw it. I was like, this is it.
I told you about here in Grapevine, these trails I run. There's a part, let's see, from my house to this part, it's probably 5 miles to this point. And there's a turn where you go on a different trail. And there's, one day I noticed it's been there for 2 years now. There's a beer and an Ironman medal and a rock. And somebody wrote on the rock, to Jeff something or other. The guy's name was Jeff, ironically. To Jeff something or other, always running hard or something. So obviously somebody who was into the sport.
That's cool,
passed away. But there's a beer out there and his medal, and nobody ever touches it, man. It's been there for years.
That's so cool. So cool. Look at that guard dog you got going on.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. I was telling somebody the other day. It's a Springer Spaniel, and that bark is, scares the heck out of people. if I order DoorDash, they're like 10 steps away by the time I get to the door to open it. They're so scared. And if you're sitting on the couch and he sees something, you'll jump out of your skin. You're deep in a movie and all of a sudden you hear that hound dog bark in your ear.
Yeah. Man, so there was a point, you know, like Zane gets up early. Like he wakes up super early and he'll let the dogs out. And man, I saw studies on this. One of the worst things to wake up to is the barking of a dog. It's like statistically one of the worst things that you can wake up to. And it's because it immediately accelerates your heart rate from a low resting heart rate, right? Like you could be in the 50s, you know, 40s, low 50s, and immediately you're up over 100. Like just think about that for a second. What that does to your system, to your body, is not good. It's not a good thing. And so we had to put some guidelines and parameters around when Zane could let the girls out. I was like, no, bud, let them sleep as long as mom and dad are still sleeping. So.
Oh man, it's no surprise. That's why I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. My heart rate is probably going from 30. You know, I'm watching like the Green Mile or something. It's probably at a 20. And then I, boom! Oh, geez.
You know, it's
and then I get immediately angry. I just get a hot flash and I get immediately angry.
You know, resting heart rate's pretty damn incredible to pay attention to. I saw, you know, some of the super endurance athletes that are at peak performance, they can get it down. I had kind of seen in, like, I'm no expert on this at all, right? It's complete novice. I just pay attention to mine and I can tell how I'm going to be the next day and kind of the stress I put on my body. But like last night, I know I've been going hard and, you know, training's picking up, you know, we're getting after it every day. And just not getting the optimal amount of sleep. And like mine last night was, you know, 53, which I've gotten it down into the low 40s, but some of the, you know, major endurance athletes that are at the pro level, I've seen some of theirs talk about theirs getting down into, you know, the mid to low 30s, which is just phenomenal, right? It's just like, dude, like the conditioning, the recovery, like what the hell are you doing to get your resting heart rate that low? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I haven't seen it that low. I think mine's like 50 something maybe, as I recall. You know, my Garmin thing broke, man. I got a new one in the mail, but my Garmin heart rate tracker thing, I've dropped my keys in the crack of your seat, you know, in your car. And,
you did that right before Dallas Marathon.
Yeah, you're right. Matter of fact, yeah, it was like that day. It was that morning.
Yeah.
It was that morning. I couldn't run with it. Yeah. Man, so to just kind of switch gears, man, I tell you what's good this week is we have a client that coaches with us, and we just recently recruited and hired an ISA for him and his team. And so I was working with them this week, and we onboarded her last week and went through the employee responsibilities and roles document, edited that to meet the standard there, worked out the compensation plan. And so this girl is going to be a big boost for their team. And I'm just super excited and going over that employee roles and responsibilities document.
Dude, unpack that, man. That's really, really powerful to get, because the things that we've seen over the years helping team leaders and make those critical hires, and they all mess it up right before they work with us. And it comes down to agreements versus expectations. They come in and have these expectations and they don't put in the work to get clear on success and go through, like you had just mentioned, the roles and responsibilities and the KPIs, how we're going to measure their success. Man, they're like, for any of you guys listening to the recording, like grab your notepad and take notes here, because this is where you guys F up hiring, is that you don't do the pre-work to get clear. So brother, unpack that. Man, this is really powerful stuff right here.
Yeah. So I edited the document quite a bit when we were using it at our brokerage here in Dallas. Re-looking at it, I hadn't looked at it in a minute. And we had three key metrics. Actually, to take that back, there were five. But as I started to edit it for them and change just some of the verbiage, I expanded on that, and it was great. So now there's an even 10 metrics for this person, and I'll just go through those 10 because I think everybody could easily copy it, and if somebody was to want that document, I'd be happy to share it with anybody. You can find it inside your Kinder Reach University training platform if you're a member there. Joincrew.com if you're not a member. But it starts with dials. Remember, this is an ISA, so that's
effort.
Really, effort. I mean, that's the number one indicator of what kind of success we're going to have. And so it starts with dials. And the role of this document is that when we're sitting with this candidate and going through the onboarding process, we go through the document line by line together and especially slow down and really hone in on these key metrics so that tomorrow or next week when we're having a morning huddle and we're asking about dials and we're asking about these metrics, it's no surprise to them that they're going to be held accountable to them. You start off on the right foot with them being of the mindset to track those metrics. So everything starts off on the right foot this way, and you eliminate those situations where, I didn't know, or I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that, or I didn't know I was going to be measured by that, or I didn't know what the role and expectation really was. So it starts with dials. This person's actually only working from 8 to 11. So we set a conservative dial goal of 200 dials per day, so 1,000 per week. Easily doable. She's dialing through Mojo. And then the second was contacts, valid contacts, right? So we want.
What is a valid? What is a valid contact?
So a valid contact would be the actual person related to the address for the lead that you're calling.
Yep.
If I call John expecting to get the owner, John, of 123 Main Street, and actually get Jeff, who doesn't even know where 123 Main Street is, I contacted somebody.
Not valid.
but that's not a valid contact, right? And sometimes that's hard to differentiate in your CRM. So, sometimes if you're really trying to hone in, you just got to get a paper out and have them do the old check system. But so contacts was there. We're shooting for a 6% contact rate. Super conservative.
So do you want to factor in kind of what data, or do you want to come back around to that? What do you have them calling?
Yeah, so basically she's calling expireds. I broke it down into hot, warm, and cold campaigns essentially, so they have a little philosophy and framework to work by. But the hot campaigns are the people that we have some reason to believe are more motivated than some stranger off the street. So an expired, for instance, a canceled, a for sale by owner, anybody who recently submitted a form through a website or an online portal, somebody who just had recent activity on our website, all those people would be what I would consider hot. So the first thing she would do is load up her expireds in the morning. But if it's 8:15 and she's calling those expireds and a buyer lead comes through, it's her responsibility to put that dialer on pause and respond to that buyer lead within the first 5 minutes. So all those are the hot campaigns. And then the warm campaigns would be like, in her case, if she has time to get to them in the beginning, she's probably going to be just spending a lot of time on hot because there hasn't been a lot of dials made. But let's say at 10:30 or so, 10, she was done with her hot, she'd move to warm, which would be staying in touch with those nurtures that are in the database. There are people that we had talked to and have an indication they want to do something, but their timeline just wasn't anything urgent. So we're continuing to build the relationship with those people, staying in touch with nurtures, calling around neighborhoods where we might have a property for sale. So just listed, for instance, or open house campaigns to really drive traffic to an open house. So those things would be what we consider the warm, even old expired, 6 months, year-old expireds, buyer leads that came in December that we never got a hold of, right? That's all warm stuff. And then cold, if we have time for it, would just be circle prospecting, focusing on areas where we want to become more recognizable, focusing on neighborhoods that have a more desirable price point, focused on neighborhoods that are trending, where there's market share available. One agent who's not great, but somehow gets a large share of the market, there's opportunity there. That would be the cold. So that's what she's doing. And we'll measure her on the 200 dials and the 6% contact rate. And then the next thing was I should pull it up really, but we're running so hot on resources. I don't want to.
Yeah, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
But so it went from contacts to, appointments set, right? So listing appointments set. I actually differentiated it from buyers and listings. So listing appointments set. We set that in her case to 3 per week, which is super conservative. But again, she's only working 20 hours a week. So 3 listing appointments set. We also have one of the metrics is nurtures conversion. So in addition to getting us face-to-face with people right now, we also want her to build and cultivate a pipeline of future business and what we would call nurtures.
Straight up.
And
Yep.
And so it's a 2-pronged goal really on a daily basis. I need you to have appointments and I need you to have nurtures, right? Appointments hopefully are people that are looking to do something now or within the next 90 days. But in order for me to predict that I'll have business in July or August, I need you to get some nurtures right now for people that are doing something in 6 months, and we can build authority and trust in the meantime. So nurture conversion, I believe, to be honest, what did I say? I believe I said 5 nurtures per week. Not hard. If she's making 200 dials, I can tell you in my experience that if you can talk to about 20 people, valid 20 people, you'll get a nurture. You talk to 50 valid people, you talk to 50 valid people, you get a listing appointment.
Yep.
So nurtures, listing appointments set, appointments met, super important is the next one. And so we're shooting for 80%. And in this document, along the side of these metrics, it kind of explains some context and what we're talking about. And so for appointments met, it talks about how this is the best indicator of whether you're able to recognize a qualified and motivated individual. It's not all about setting appointments. In fact, if you set appointments that are not qualified, we actually get worse results because we have less time to focus on people that are motivated. And so sending me out on a bunch of bad appointments actually is worse than sending me out on no appointments. So we want to measure how many of these appointments get met. It's easy to say, hey, Kitch, man, I set 15 appointments this week. We've all heard it. Everybody has heard, oh, man, I crushed it this week. I had this. But how many met, and you don't.
That's the number.
Yeah, that's the number, right?
How many valid people did you get me face-to-face with?
So 80%. So, if we had 3 listing appointments per week, that's 12 per month. If she can get 80% of those to meet, that would be 10 face-to-face appointments for the team with sellers. Then we move on to buyers. And so she has a buyer appointment set. That's also a metric. And that would be at our office, if at all possible. And we talk about that at boot camp, right? Expert Advisor Boot Camp, March 30th.
31st. 30th, 31st, and 1st.
There you go. March 30th to the 1st. If you have time and you're ready to, and you're willing and want to start learning some stuff, come to boot camp. We'll
Amen.
go over this whole entire buyer appointment process. But so the buyer appointment is at our office. Again, we want to make sure that they meet. I have a 50% met rate on the buyers because let's face it, we know that they're a little bit different. So I'm just expecting her to get a 50% met rate when it comes to the buyer appointments. And we've slated her based on our current lead volume, which this team is generating leads from Sierra CRM, and probably getting about 60 leads a month. So I'm shooting for her to be able to get, it was, I believe, 2 buyer appointments per week.
You have it broken down in that document?
Yeah. I believe
Perfect.
It's 2 buyer appointments per week that I've got her slated to, because ultimately it ends up between the 3 seller appointments and the 2 buyer appointments. We get 5 appointments total per week. And then we have the buyer conversion. And so, that's basically it, man. I think that's probably the 10 right there. But really breaking it down so that she knows what she's responsible for. And then the compensation, what we actually did is so she's getting, a bonus or however you want to quantify it for sellers that actually list and sell. And so she's getting a percentage there. And then on the buy side, we want to incentivize the right behavior. And so we want her to respond quickly. She's going to be responding 24 hours a day, even if she's not at work. She's going to be responding to the buyer leads.
So is that one of your critical numbers, speed of response?
Yeah, it is. It's a hard thing to measure. So it's, it's a hard metric to measure, so it's a little bit different. But she definitely knows that's key.
Is the tool that so they're using Sierra? Does that tool with the leads coming in, to action? Does it give you a time stamp?
It probably, yeah, I think it does. But the problem is, what I'm having, this is a struggle with all agents, right, is they don't log in and record their stuff. So if I'm out on the street, I call it from my cell phone, but they're not logging it in the system. So maybe tomorrow, if I'm lucky, they might actually come in and go, I remembered I talked to John yesterday. Let me go in here and change it. And so that's what keeps that data from being trustworthy. And that's a good point, because I always go in and I'm like, what the hell? How come I see these leads right here and there's no calls? Well, I called them, man. I just called them from my cell phone and I didn't log it. Well, if we can't trust any of the numbers in here, then if I'm trying to figure out what the contact rate is,
100%.
in there doing that, I can't trust any of the data.
100%.
So yeah, and then what we did for her is, I think we had it ended up being 16 MET appointments per month when we added it all together, and that was assuming that some are going to cancel using those MET ratios we talked about. And so the goal is to get 16 MET appointments, and we were willing to pay her $25 appointment bonus for each one of those MET appointments if she hits the goal. So if she hits 16 MET appointments for the month, she gets $400. It's $25 times 16. So she gets an extra $400. The fact is if I can get her to get the team in front of 16 people, we will walk away with at least 5 of those people committing to do business with us. And in their market, that's going to be $30,000, $40,000 at least. So do we give a shit about paying $400? No. And what's great is it's going to hurt sometimes to pay that $400 if you're not getting the people to commit to do business with you. And then that it's your presentation skills and you need to improve. So it's not all her fault. I told them, if she's getting you in front of people that are actually showing up and they're qualified and you're not getting the dotted line signed, then that you need to improve your presentation skills. And it's going to suck to pay her $400 when you go, I didn't get nothing there.
Amen. That's that right there, guys, just going through, doing the work, getting clear on what the agreement of success is all about, because you're going to get frustrated they're not producing the results, but you got to get on the same page. If, your definition of success is different than my definition of success, and if you don't get that clear in writing in that agreement, then you're always going to be frustrated. So you got to put the work in, you got to get clear on the agreement. One thing, having that part-time ISA, what other responsibilities fall on that team lead that fall on the rest of the team, right? Mm-hmm. Because I've seen a lot of agents over the years, they get that ISA, they bring them in a part-time capacity, and then they don't do shit. They don't do any prospecting. They don't do anything else. They're relying on the ISA, so they want to point fingers and blame that person. But yet, dude, that person's working 15 to 20 hours a week. They're in addition to. So how do you have that kind of set up, or what are your thoughts, especially in this situation, what the team lead and rest of the team should be doing as well?
Yeah. So what they're doing is morning huddles every single morning. And she's filling out also an end of day report at the end of every day. So she's got it saved to the toolbar in her browser. And I made it, it's important to make a distinction from the beginning. For instance, in that document, there's a breakdown of what her schedule is. So everybody agrees to it and initials each thing. And I have it where it says 8:00 start in big bold letters, 8:00 start, and 11:00 end. The reason that's there is when I'm going through this document with the individual, I can say, and the reason I put start there, just to be clear, is that's when we expect you to start, not get here at 8:00 and, get some coffee and mess around and blah, 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 and then finally get on at 8:45 or 9. That's not what we're talking about. 8:00 start means go on the dial, and at 11:00, that means end. So you're not shutting down Mojo and closing your tabs and then getting on Facebook to kill 20 minutes at 10:30, because that's what people will do.
Yep.
You shut off Mojo and everything at 11:55. 10:55. It takes just a second. Boom. 10:55, you can shut stuff down. You can hit that tab in your browser. The little form pops up and says, how many dials did you make today? How many contacts did you make today? how many nurtures did you get, how many appointments did you get, and what were any choke points or obstacles that you ran into. And when she hits submit, everybody who needs to gets a copy of that form. It automatically drops all those responses into a Google sheet where we can calculate sums and conversions and stuff. And then that's reviewed every morning in that huddle. So again, if you have that as a disciplined practice, then every morning somebody knows that they're going to be questioned about their end of day report. Literally, I'd have it on my phone. All right, Kitch, so it looks like you made $300 yesterday, this and that. So tell me about it. And so when they know that they're going to be responsible to that every morning, you get better performance for sure.
So expand upon now what also falls on the team lead in their sales responsibilities as far as it relates to prior to appointment. That kind of gives some context what and ISAs in addition to, they don't replace the activities. So that's kind of what I'm trying to uncover in this situation. What do you have the rest of the team doing from sales activity related?
Yeah, so it's a collaboration between the ISA and whoever the agent is in most cases. And so it's really important that the agent knows that it's their responsibility to work that lead in collaboration with the ISA, and most importantly, to communicate to each other. That's always been a struggle for us when we had 20 agents in Dallas, right? It was the communication of those agents back to the ISA. They'd go out on an appointment and the ISA would be trying to do their job and follow up appropriately, but they could never get any feedback from the agent on what happened on the appointment.
None.
And so, the agent has to be, it's their, 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that are going to screw it up. Honestly, right? The client will, they might meet with the person and they promise to get some information back to that person. They never get the information back to that person. You have an ISA who's maintaining the relationship. Hey, John, how'd everything go meeting with Jeff? That's good, man. He told me he was going to send me some stuff like a week ago. I've never got it. And you have an ISA who's going to be compensated off of that sale. They start to get a little pissed off. What the hell? Why did
telling you, man? You nailed it right there. You better put a mechanism in place for you guys listening in. If you've got an ISA, one, you better be at a level to where I would say a couple hundred transactions you're doing as the team lead in production, you're doing 50 plus. The ISA is focused on the listing side, teeing you up. I don't know how much of a good idea, unless your model is that your ISA is feeding everybody. If that's the case, you better have a mechanism in place that's following up with those appointments to make sure how they went. You don't want to take the agent's word for it. You just don't. Because
in fact, they lie to you.
They will lie to you because they suck on the presentation and they're going to say it was a bad appointment. And that ain't true. The ISA did their job. The agent sucks. They're not putting in the work on their mastery, on their skills mastery, which is why you want to pay attention to that agent's conversion. If you are doing that, I'm saying that's later on. Ideally the model, unless like if you're in production and the model depends upon your production as the team lead, then those appointments are set for you. If you're in a different model to where this is providing opportunities for the rest of the team, then you have to have a mechanism in place that's following up and doing an autopsy, client feedback on those appointments, because the agent's going to lie to you. They're going to say the appointment was terrible. They're just going to lie because they're trying to mask how bad they suck on presentation. So don't take it at face value. And
unfortunately, and we've seen this happen. Unfortunately, literally, they'll tell you that they went on the appointment and they didn't even go on the appointment.
True story.
We've had that happen, and the ISA, I'm getting feedback. Yeah, I went on the appointment. It was terrible. The guy's not motivated at all. ISA calls, and that person, no, they never showed up. And sometimes customers will lie too. But when there's a pattern there of behavior, it's itself. So, but and so what we would do is we had a post-appointment script where the ISA would call 48 hours after the appointment and say, hey, John, I just wanted to touch base with you. I know you met with Jeff the other day. Do you have a couple seconds just so I can ask you a few questions to see if he's keeping up with our quality of standards? Sure. Oh, great. So number one, did he show up on time?
Yep.
Were they dressed professionally and presentable? Did they go over the 7 laws of our proven repeatable system with you? Did they go over the market price? Based on what they went over with you, how did that line up with what you thought? Were there any concerns or anything that you had that they weren't able to answer? Is there any information that you're waiting on them to get? So based on everything that they went over with you, how likely do you think it'll be that you'll list your home with Jeff? And that ISA gets so much authentic information that honestly, the agent couldn't get, because the selling pressure in the prospect's mind is attached to the agent. And so if the agent starts asking those things, the wall's going to go up because the prospect's going to think they're trying to be sold by the agent. Whereas the ISA, who's been that soft voice and that hand to hold the whole time, has a better chance of getting that information.
Amen, man. If you guys implement anything with an ISA role, implement that piece right there. You'll get so much insight, how you can improve your presentation mastery. You'll accelerate how good you get face to face by just having that mechanism in place to get that feedback and get it back from, taking that, concierge type of approach, and just, hey, just trying to get a gauge, anything else that was promised that we can make sure that we're getting delivered to, and just help point on that. Man, absolute gold. If you guys implement that piece right there, it'll be huge. Even if you're the one setting the appointments and going out on there, and if you've got a key admin in place, have them make that call for you. They'll be able to get some insight and some information and be able to help you accelerate your overall sales mastery, man, because that's the key. Presentation mastery, no matter what stage you're at, as you grow from single agent, moving through all the stages, your presentation ability as you grow the business and securing relationships, bringing other agents on board, it's all about your presentation. And, anything that you can do to speed the feedback loop, do it. You got to do it if you're serious about growth.
And especially when you're paying an ISA, you're paying an ISA a labor dollar, and let's leverage that dollar to use them in every way possible. So let's get that feedback by having them do those follow-up calls and hold our agents accountable. Let's use the ISA to make a 30-day call. And hey, how are things going? It's been 30 days. I know since you moved in, things are going great. Let's use them to call 2 weeks afterwards or whenever to get a referral or to get a testimonial, so I would definitely use them as the tip of the spear for a lot of those things if you're not doing it on your own.
The key thing too, is the ISA brings in consistency, and they bring in not letting things fall through the cracks, because as the high driving, personalities that are, running and gunning and on production focused, when we get busy, we get, we're on, we do a great job, set up a bunch of appointments. We're going through that whole process. Our consistency falls off and things start to fall through the cracks. So an ISA does a lot of things, but really understanding they're bringing you consistency and they're bringing you things that are not going to fall through the cracks. But just like Jeff broke down, you better have a solid agreement in place of metrics of success that you're reviewing on a weekly basis, if not daily. Some of the numbers are reported daily. We're looking at them on a daily basis, but overall looking at our conversion metrics, no worse than a weekly basis. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And that's what we're looking at.
Sometimes numbers lie if you have the person putting the numbers in.
Oh, you're putting Fugazi numbers in there. Come on. Those are rookie numbers. You better get those numbers up.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that, it can fall through the cracks with an ISA because if you don't manage them. So going back to what you said, the responsibility is not all on the ISA. If you're not doing those morning huddles and I'm like, not today, and then they get used to all these huddles never happen. Shit, I don't have to worry about my dials.
What do we do with our ISAs right now, Jeff? How many huddles do we have a day?
Two a day.
Two a day.
One every morning at 9 o'clock, and then again at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we've got a team meeting on Mondays.
Yep. End of day report every day.
Every
so it's
morning
the same
we're
principles,
looking at the dashboard.
Guys. Yeah, we may be talking about it's fundamentals, it's principles. It applies to any business, right? We're talking coaching training organization that has people making phone calls. You got to put that same rhythm of accountability in place versus your real estate business. It doesn't matter. It's principle based. And that's the cool thing. That's what we love. I mean, we're teaching you guys the principles to run a successful organization to, help you guys accelerate growth.
And, like you've been to Tony Robbins events and stuff before, and you know how they keep you in those rooms and it's like a kind of cult atmosphere. You don't leave the hotel. You're always with like that crowd and that energy and everything. And so that's what makes it so powerful, and stuff happens because you're just like you have tunnel vision, right? Everything else is kind of blocked out. You're with this tribe that's all on the same vibe. But then when you go home, other stuff happens and you start to get pulled away from there. And so that's the same exact concept as why you need to have a huddle every single day. You can have, if it makes sense to have more than one, but you need to have it at a really high level all the time, consistently, because it keeps everybody in that zone. And, it keeps you in the room. It keeps you in the room. And the more we can all talk about every day, if we're talking about what's on the board and what you're going to get today, what am I going to get today, what we got tomorrow, what's on the board, what you're going to get today, what stuff happens. The more that we focus on it, the better chance it will become reality. So it's amazing. Like, I mean, it literally, if you just huddle up and you talk about the deals every single day, you'd see a growth just by concentrating so much energy on it.
Communication saturation. I had a call earlier today with a client, with Eric up in Canada, and he's going through Atomic Habits. And I gave the example, because we're really focusing in on effort metrics, paying attention to dials, conversations, appointments, just real simple, just those three. And he gave the example out of Atomic Habits of, you have your power meter to your house, right? If you're really conscious on the amount of energy and power that you're using in your house, if you had that inside your living room to where you looked at it every day, right? You saw how much power you were using versus in the basement or outside or wherever where you don't ever see it, right? What do you think you're going to be paying attention? Are you going to be aware that you've got all the lights upstairs that are on that you haven't been upstairs in a couple days, right? If you're seeing that power's running, you're like, something's on, something's not right. And, just made me think, I was thinking of Al. So Al has a very, very high electric bill at his house. His house is massive, but it gets extremely high during the summer when the pool is open. And I was just making me think, I was like, Al, if you had a power gauge that you can see day by day, right, what's going on, you think you'd be a little more conscious of the energy drains in the house, making sure that we got things under control. There's a difference in $1,000 bill versus $150 bill, right? And we've all been there. Dude, I've been there here in North Dallas, and everything's brand new, right? So I remember, moving in the water, right? You got to water all the time and this, that, the other, and you open it up. And it's so funny seeing these people that move in and they bitch about their water bills, right? Mm-hmm. Like, MFer, you had your water run every damn day and it ran for X number of hours. Why don't you make sure that your water is adjusted correctly and that, you're watering the only amount that you need to water?
You go it's like timer you got in the garage there, buddy.
Dude, and here's the thing. The water company provides a free service tech to come out to make sure your system's timed correctly. Like 100-0, right?
Yeah.
It's Jocko. It's extreme ownership, man. Like, dude, don't point fingers at it just because you got a high-ass water bill. What was the cause of it? You weren't even paying attention to it, and then you're not taking advantage of the free service to come get it dialed in. It's just, but it goes back to the whole principle, man. When you look at it, you're paying attention to it, you're going to behave differently versus out of sight, out of mind.
Well, what is it? What you don't track, you can't measure.
Yeah.
That's right. Peter Drucker, I believe, something
Yeah,
along those lines.
a lot of that, man. It's what it comes down to. You know, if it's an issue, and sometimes you got to get that high ass water bill to start paying attention to it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But then
Or that big $1,000 electricity bill or something.
But then put the system in place to monitor it, right?
Man, I'm surprised they don't have an app. I can just picture. What if I had like a widget on my phone and I could see like my power run 24/7? That'd be a good app.
You can. They have those,
okay.
right?
Oh well. See, I'm
or
just not that
even
interested.
log in, right? Or even log into your account and see kind of where it's at. I mean, there's things that you can do if it's an issue, right? And it's just measuring it. It's, you know, what are all the ways? But first, it starts with taking ownership and not being a victim and not pointing fingers.
I said it yesterday, man. It's funny you mentioned Jocko in that book, but I said it yesterday. It's always my fault. It's always my fault.
Always. It is always, man. Hey, did I tell you about his, I started listening to his new one.
Mm-mm.
So it's leadership strategy and tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So his first book, Extreme Ownership, and then his second one was The Dichotomy of Leadership. So those were the two foundational principles that he built his whole leadership on in the SEALs. And first was obviously extreme ownership, like you just said. Everything is my fault, right? You could have always,
even if it's not, it's your fault.
It always is. And then the dichotomy of leadership is about balance. And nothing's in balance, right? Like a circle wheel, nothing's perfectly circled, nothing's perfectly balanced. But like what he gives the example, he gives, and I haven't gone through the dichotomy of leadership, but in this book, he breaks down a lot of those principles and even more, and then he applies the tactics of how to do it, which is awesome, right? He gives, so Extreme Ownership was written really, really well. And there's a few books that have come out that are written the same way. This one right here, Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss is written the same way as Extreme Ownership, right?
Money.
So what they do is they give in their world that example. So Voss would give an example from a hostage negotiation. Jocko would give a wartime example. Then they would break down the principle and then they would apply it to business. So that's how every chapter of Extreme Ownership, that's how every chapter of Never Split the Difference. There's a bunch of books that have recently come out that are applied that way.
The Choice Factory, that's one I'm reading right now, about done with. The Choice Factory. It's about the principles that influence kind of human behavior and advertising. And it's like that. So it'll go over the principle. It'll give an example of a company that's applied that principle. And then it'll say, how can you apply it? And
I love that.
You can apply it. Yeah.
Those are great books, man. Those are great. They become reference manuals, ones that you make sure you have on the shelf that you're always referring back to. Like I'm grabbing Never Split the Difference and thumbing through and finding something all the time, right?
He has a masterclass. He has a masterclass now.
Yeah, I saw. I haven't gone through it. Masterclass, man. That what we know that model we're talking about. Yeah. So, but it gives those tactics in there, and I like 100% did not know where I was going with that story. Now, you tripped me up when you said masterclass. It was good. It was going to be good.
I'm sure it was. If my grandmother would say, I guess it wasn't that important then.
Yeah.
Or if it's that important, you'll remember it. One of those things.
Yeah. No. So on that, what he's talking about from the leadership side of things, I'm trying to talk myself back into figuring out what it is. It'll click in a second. Anyways, that book's phenomenal. You guys.
My favorite thing. I loved it. It's one of the Chris Voss, simple. He goes over a lot of stuff that's much more powerful than this. But just one of the cool things that you can start to use in conversation that you get out of that book is when you need to get people talking. The whole thing is get them talking. I want to say as little as possible, get you talking. And he uses the 3-word technique. Where let's say I'm talking to John, and so, hey, John, what exactly are you looking for in a home? Paint me the picture, and then say,
yeah, shut up and listen. No, now you just triggered what I was saying, talking about the dichotomy of leadership.
There we go. See, how about that?
So he talks about balance.
The dichotomy of leadership.
It's the balance, right? So it's the black and white, right? And so the example that he gives a bunch of examples, but the example to think about is exactly what you just said, right? A leader's got to know when to talk, but a leader's got to know when to shut up. And there's a balance of talking and listening. You can't be a leader that just listens all the time, and you can't be a leader that just talks all the time. You got to find your balance within your organization as a leader to where you're speaking enough and you're listening enough. That's the dichotomy that he talks about, right? So he gives a bunch of those different kinds of examples. But in this book, the newest one, he gives the action items to take. So it's just good, man. Jocko's amazing. He is a true leader. It's definitely a must. I know we've had a lot of requests for which leadership books to dive into. You know, obviously anything John Maxwell, I would highly, highly recommend all of Jocko's stuff, especially this one. Definitely Leaders Eat Last with Simon Sinek. You know, those are things that at your core, and here's the thing, all of you guys listening in are leaders, right? You're leading either an organization, if you've got kiddos, you're a leader. You're leading yourself. So all of these things apply. And, you know, he mentions, he breaks down there, you know, leadership born or made, tends to be more made. You know, he gives some great examples on being born, but he talks about, man, there's a solution to everything. He's talking about, like, Jocko has a really powerful voice, right? He's talking about in combat, machine guns firing, like, you got to have that voice for everybody to hear the command over everything. He's like, yeah, all the high tech, you know, microphones and everything that we have, noise canceling and everything. He goes, that shit still doesn't work. He's like, you gotta have that voice. And he was giving an example of another leader that had a real quiet voice and his team couldn't hear him. And Jocko was like, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. You got to get loud. You got to get loud. And we're just watching a training exercise that was going on. And all of a sudden, that leader that he was on, he said he was a phenomenal leader, but he just couldn't get loud. Because Jocko thought in his mind, that was his belief, that to be a leader, you had to have that loud voice. And what he saw in that moment was that leader turned to one of his key guys that had a loud voice and barked the order to the guy and said, hey, tell the team to do this. And through gunfire, through everything, that guy just got the command out and the team acted. And Jocko at that moment, he goes, I was so wrong. He goes, you don't have to have that loud voice to be a great leader. You just have to have the team around you and leverage their talents and their skills to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And that's just one. And dude, I'm halfway through the book. That's one of maybe 25 or 30 key lessons. I was like, holy shit. That's great. And I can't recommend it enough for all of you guys, you know, catching any of this, man. Dive into that book of Jocko's, and it's a game changer.
I think I can tie that back to having the huddles and, having that be a disciplined part of your business. It goes back to that. It's not, like that example, I think, conveys the point that as a leader, your number one job is to communicate the message from the top down, right? And it doesn't matter the voice as much as it matters that the message gets across. And so in that case, let me use somebody else. Let me leverage somebody with the voice to get the message across. Because as a leader, I could care less if it's the voice, whatever. I just need the message to go. If you say it, cool. If I say it, cool. I just need to make sure as the leader that everybody gets the message.
It was awesome.
And I probably elevate that other individual also, and there's something positive that happens there with that person.
Well, I mean, you got Jocko, who's senior command over this leader, and he just saw that and he got more respect for that dude, just the way he handled that situation. You know what I mean? And
then the guy yelling it feels accomplished,
empowered.
You know what I mean? And empowered. Yeah. So it's
great lessons, good, man. Great lessons.
Well,
cool.
We had to struggle with the bandwidth today. Maybe Elon Musk can get us that satellite internet here in the next couple of weeks.
I know we were talking about that before we went live. Like, I hope he does it. I hope he does it. He's going to be like, that's the biggest middle finger that you can give.
I don't know.
He's going to make it happen.
It'd be a big target. I'd see a big target floating in space there, man. Somebody would take that sucker out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to remind everybody, if they haven't done so, be sure and check out kinderreese.com and learn more about how we might be able to help you working one-on-one in your business. We can help you definitely grow your business and start making more money fast. And if you want to just jump right to watching a video Jay Kinder's put together for you, you can watch that at kinderreesecoaching.com. And the next step would be to just click the link and schedule a clarity call. And we'll jump on the phone and go over current reality and what you need to do to get where you want to go.
It just made me think right there, right? It's the 100 on the back of your computer we were talking about, but dude, we can help you go from 0 to 100.
Fast.
All
right. Cool.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you guys. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
To find out how to build a 7-figure real estate business in 3 years or less, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. You've been listening to the Growth Guys Podcast. If you want us to help you grow your real estate business, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Growth Guys Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix to get new, fresh weekly episodes. Catch you next time on the Growth Guys Podcast.